Have you ever looked back at a moment and thought, wow, I didn't handle that very well? Maybe you snapped at someone you love or shut down completely. That's what we're diving into today. What emotional maturity really looks like when life gets messy. Hi, I'm Marie. I'm a therapist and a coach, and I guide people to grow stronger and handle tough dynamics and build relationships that last. So listen until the end where I break down emotional maturity in a way that actually makes sense for daily life, not just theory or psychology or textbooks, but the kind of maturity that can change how you feel in your own skin and with your closest relationships. Because emotional maturity isn't about perfection, it's about progress. When people hear the phrase emotional maturity, they sometimes imagine a perfect person who never feels anger, jealousy, or sadness. But that's not maturity, that's suppression. Emotional maturity is the ability to notice your feelings without letting them run the show. Pause before reacting so you actually have a choice, and make space for someone else's emotion even if you don't agree. That's the foundation. But it's one thing to list all these great qualities, right? And another to see them in real life. So let me give you a couple of examples that show how emotional maturity plays out every day. A woman I worked with shared how frustrated she felt with a really close friend who'd canceled on her several times. When she brought it up, the friend snapped, "You're too demanding." And her first instinct was to argue back, but instead she paused and said, "I hear you. I didn't realize I was coming across that way. Can you tell me what feels hard right now?" That pause changed everything. The conversation softened instead of blowing up, and both walked away feeling more understood. Another example is a man told me about a moment with his partner. She said, "You never help out around here." And his gut reaction was to defend himself. "Of course I do," etc., etc. Instead, he took a deep breath and said, "I hear you. It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed. What would help you feel more supported?" That one shift turned a potential fight into a chance for connection. So how do you recognize emotional maturity in action? It's usually in the small, messy moments. Let's say a family member talks over you. You don't explode or shut down. You calmly set a boundary. Or a coworker drops the ball. Instead of firing off a heated email, you pause, gather your thoughts, and respond in a way that protects your voice without fueling conflict. And when you examine these, they aren't grand gestures, they're just everyday choices, right? And the more we practice them, the steadier and more trusted we become in our relationships. Which brings me to the part you can actually start practicing today. Here's the key. Emotional maturity doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you handle your feelings in a way that doesn't damage your relationships or your sense of self. So if you want to grow in emotional maturity, here are 3 simple practices you can try even this week. Even 10 seconds of silence gives your brain time to move from reaction to response. Learning to pause even when you're triggered will get easier each time you practice. You could just take a deep breath, inhale through your nose, exhale slowly through your mouth. You can pause before reacting. The second thing you could do is say to yourself, "I feel hurt," or "I feel dismissed." Naming it takes away some of its sting and power. Learn to identify what it is you're feeling and stop judging yourself for having the feeling. Remember to name what you feel. And the third thing is, instead of matching someone else's negativity, decide, "I want to respond with calm," and take the smallest step towards that. This takes practice. But if you feel so upset, then leave the room until you can collect yourself. What is important is that you get to choose one small action that reflects your values. These small shifts add up. Over time, they help you feel steadier, and that steadiness is what people around you will notice and trust. Practice and following through with acknowledging even the small successes will help you continue to progress. Emotional maturity isn't about perfection, it's simply about progress. Every time you pause, every time you name what's happening inside of you, every time you respond with intention, you're building emotional maturity. If this video was helpful, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And remember, emotional maturity is never about being flawless. It's about steady progress.